A crazy case involving Illinois' firearms owner identification law and a lawsuit for, ready for this, folks? Money. A lawsuit for money brought by an Illinois gun owner against police officers who allegedly made false statements about the gun owner that caused him to lose his firearms owner identification card. Let's talk all about this interesting federal case involving our Second Amendment rights and gun owners in Illinois when we get back. Hey folks, I'm Mark Smith, host of the Four Boxes Diner, proud American gun owner, constitutional attorney, member of the United States Supreme Court Bar, and author of the brand new bestselling book, Israel Disarmed, What the 10/7 Terrorist Attacks Teach Americans About the Right to Bear Arms. We must always learn from the mistakes of others. All right, folks, a very interesting case in federal court, the United States District Court for the Central District of Illinois, in a case called Ronald Kuehlman versus Officer Nicholas Hines et al. Others are named as well as defendants. Fascinating case. According to the allegations, as summarized by the court in this opinion, denying the motion to dismiss, the police officer defendants filed a motion to dismiss against this claim brought pursuant to the Second Amendment by Mr. Kuehlman, and the federal judge denied the motion to dismiss, and here's why the judge did so. According to the allegations, the plaintiff, Robert Kuehlman, is a resident of Normal, Illinois. His mother also lives in Normal, Illinois, but at a different home. They don't live in the same home, but they live in the same town. One day, the mother received a knock on the back door by some guy asking to use her cell phone. She loaned him the phone, and then the guy started to act really, really weird and would not leave the property after using the phone. This caused the plaintiff's mother, Mr. Kuehlman's mother, to call the police 911 number and then called the plaintiff up, Mr. Kuehlman. Mr. Kuehlman and the police officers both responded to this issue because the mother claimed that she was worried that this particular individual, the stranger, might have a mental illness and might be a threat to her, a physical threat. Well, it turns out Mr. Kuehlman arrived, surprise, surprise, on the scene first, and then the police arrived second. Now, when Mr. Kuehlman arrived on the scene to protect his mother against this stranger who was acting strangely, the plaintiff, Mr. Kuehlman, drew his pistol and pointed it at the stranger, the man, and held him at gunpoint until the Normal police officers, the Normal Police Department's officers, arrived. When this occurred, the police officers found the stranger to be unarmed, but they did think he might be a little odd, so they transported the stranger to a mental health facility for treatment to figure out what was going on. At the same time, the police officers asked Mr. Kuehlman if they could have the gun. Mr. Kuehlman gave them his gun that he had been using to hold the stranger at bay, and the police officers, did their job, and then they gave the gun back without incident. The police officers did not arrest the mother, obviously. The police officers did not arrest Mr. Kuehlman. The police officers did not take Mr. Kuehlman's gun or anything like that. And by the way, the gun was not fired or anything like that. It was simply brandished, held toward the stranger who was held at bay until he was basically taken by the police in for a mental health assessment. And that should have been the end of the story, but it wasn't. And this is where the lawsuit arises. Specifically, after this event, the police officer defendants allegedly made a series of false statements and filed documents with specifically the Illinois State Police about, ready for this, Mr. Kuehlman, the plaintiff, who was the guy that came to protect and did protect the mother, who had no issues with the police, and the police had no issues with him at the scene of this incident. Specifically, this is what the court says is alleged by Mr. Kuehlman against these police officers. Later, defendant Hines wrote and signed, and the defendant Serena Cunningham, his supervisor, countersigned a report submitted to the Illinois State Police pursuant to a section of the Illinois Firearm Owners Identification Card Act, providing that a law enforcement officer who determines any person to pose a clear and present danger to himself, herself, or to others shall, within 24 hours of making the determination, notify the Illinois State Police that the person poses a clear and present danger. In the report, which plaintiff states he has read, Defendant Hines, the police officer, wrote that he and the other officers were at the address in question to conduct a well-being check, and did not mention that plaintiff's mother had initiated the encounter by calling emergency services to express concern about a trespasser. The defendant, Hines, a police officer, also noted that he did not perceive the stranger to be a threat, and he stated incorrectly that plaintiff had been charged with aggravated assault. Finally, the police officer wrote that plaintiff complied with the officer's commands and told officers he had been afraid for the safety of his grandmother, which apparently was an erroneous reference to plaintiff's mother because he believed the stranger to be under the influence of drugs or experiencing a mental health crisis. Now, upon receiving this report, the Illinois State Police pulled the firearms owner identification card of Mr. Kuhlman, and they pulled his concealed carry permit. All because of these allegedly false allegations against Mr. Kuhlman, who did nothing wrong, according to the allegations, other than show up and protect his mother without an incident. So now what's happened is Mr. Kuhlman has brought a lawsuit under 42 U.S.C. Section 1983, claiming that these police officers acting as government agents violated his Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms by making false statements that the police officers knew to be false and knew that the consequence of these false statements would be that Mr. Kuhlman would lose his right to keep and bear arms because he would lose his firearms owner identification card as well as losing his ability to conceal carry in the state of Illinois. So he is now suing the police officers for monetary damages. Well, the court looked at the allegations and looked at the various arguments made by the police officer defendants and concluded that indeed at this point in the case, Robert Kuhlman, the plaintiff, had alleged an appropriate, satisfactory complaint against these police officers that they were the cause of him being deprived of his right to keep and bear arms under the Second Amendment and thus is entitled, at least based on the face of it, he may be entitled facially, based on the complaint and the allegations in it, he may be entitled to monetary damages under Federal Civil Rights Statute 42 U.S.C. Section 1983. So this is a very interesting situation. I'll put a link to the opinion down below in the description, but it's quite fascinating to see an American gun owner suing police officers for money in order as a consequence of the damages that they have allegedly suffered. This is much different than usually when we see the Second Amendment arise in the context of either a civil lawsuit where a plaintiff is trying to enjoin or stop the enforcement of a modern-day gun control law, or there's a criminal defendant that's been charged with a gun-related crime asserting the Second Amendment as a defense to the application of that criminal law. So anyway, there you have it. We will continue to follow the Kuhlman case as things progress. We'll see what happens next. They're going to get into discovery, take factual information presumably, and then come on back for summary judgment is my guess, or maybe they'll resolve the case. One never knows. But to the extent there's additional breaking news involving this case, I'll try to bring it to you here on this channel. So there you have it, folks. Hope you enjoyed this. Make sure you follow me on X at Fourboxes Diner. We have almost, we're getting closing in on like 18,000 followers over on X. A lot more information out there on politics and the Second Amendment I try to get out. In addition to what I'm doing on this channel, make sure you follow me on X at Fourboxes Diner. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video, and we will see you again very soon, I hope, here at the Fourboxes Diner.
Orders up. Table 2A.